Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for being here today. Despite the fact that the Bay Area is having yet another storm, spring has sprung, my friends. April showers, bring May flowers, except it's March, so I don't know what the little limerick is for that. But in today's video, I'm going to be doing a spring TBR. Namely because it's spring, but also because I just recently bought some new books and I wanted to share. I actually went to Green Apple Books to pick up some of these books, and I'm very excited to share them with you. They're right here, right next to me. But before we get into the TBR, first, let me just say the Q&A is coming. I know it's taking me longer than I expected, but it's coming, don't worry. Number two, I am hoping to get a book recommendation from all of you. Specifically, I would love book recommendations that deal with adventure. And it doesn't matter what the genre is. It could be fantasy, it could be sci-fi, it could be literary fiction, it could be romance. I don't care what it is. But I was thinking about why I've been so in and out of this reading slump for the last 6 months. Maybe even more. And I think part of that is that I miss feeling gripped by a novel. And I was thinking about some of my favorite books like Project Hail Mary or City of Thieves, where the characters are so engrossed with an adventure that it's hard to put down, right? So that could be saving the world or completing a task or doing challenges like they do in Ready Player One. And I just want to feel that again. I want to read books that feel unput-downable. You catch my drift? Basically, I want to lose sleep over literature again. And so I would love any recommendations you all have for some of your favorite adventure-based books, because I'm looking for adventure right now. All right? So anyway, let's get into this little spring TBR. So the first book I picked up from Green Apple is Cursed Bunny. This is a short story collection, so it's hard, again, to describe because it is a collection of stories, but I've heard some phenomenal things about this book. I was actually book shopping with a subscriber. Her name was Mariana, and she's the one that pointed it out and was like, I've only heard amazing things. And I said, say no more, I am buying it. So we both bought it at the same time. She's already finished it. She finished it in 36 hours and said that it's one of her new favorite short story collections. So I'm really, really excited about this one. One of my goals for 2023 is to read more short story collections because I feel like I read a lot of them in 2021 and then barely any in 2022. And I would like to remedy that this year. So that's the first one, and I'm very, very excited to get to it. That's going to be basically all I say in this entire video. My God. The next one is Arrival. This was a recommendation from Mariana, and she told me that it's about a woman who is escaping abuse. So please keep that in mind if you decide to pick this up. This is a very heavy book. But she is fleeing the country away from her abuser. But another thing that it does is that it watches as she has to look at her own trauma and see how it is impacting those around her. So not only how it's manifested in herself, but how it manifests in her relationship with her child and with those around her. So this one's going to be interesting because I think that it's going to be a really, really hard read, but it's going to do something I really love in literature, which is watching as a character processes patterns or abuse or family history and watches how that impacts their life. So, and those around them. So just kind of watching as something generational ripples out to other people in a family or in a relationship. So anyway, I will let you know how this one goes. The next book is Luster. And now this book, I feel like has a lot going on in a really exceptional way that I think is going to be so interesting to kind of uncover the various layers. So basically, we have a main character named Eddie, and it says she's stumbling through her 20s, sharing a subpar apartment, clocking in and out of her admin job, making a series of inappropriate sexual choices. She's also haltingly giving heat and air to the art that simmers inside her. And when she meets Eric, a man with a family in New Jersey, including a wife who has agreed to an open marriage with rules, soon Eddie finds herself invited into Eric's home, not by Eric, where she becomes a de facto role model to his adopted daughter. Eddie may be the only Black woman Akilah knows. So I just think that there's a lot going on in this book that's going to be really interesting to unpack, right? We have the affair, which is something that is so interesting to read on the page, especially in this case, because it's not your standard affair, right? Like you're watching, apparently, as the wife is welcoming of this type of relationship, or at least welcomes the mistress into the home. I think that's going to be very interesting. But it's not just accepting or allowing a mistress to come in, it's also accepting a mistress in to be a role model for an adopted daughter. And I think that the fact that the main character, Eddie, is the only Black woman that the daughter knows is going to then create such interesting conversation between like family, identity, race, and then with the affair, love and betrayal. But maybe it's not betrayal because it's, an open relationship, but then maybe the possibilities of what their relationship can be can't really go anywhere. I just feel like the story could go in so many directions, and I'm really interested to see where it goes. All right, and then the last book I picked up from Green Apple is a book that I've had my eye on for the last month or so because it has a fantastic cover. I mean, there's a hand on the cover, so we love it. But I've always talked myself out of it because it's so long. Well, no longer. If you catch my drift. I'm not even sure if I catch my own drift, but in any case, it is Our Share of Night. Again, I've seen this book everywhere and I've heard such good things, but it's so long and I don't usually read books that are that long, especially not anymore. I'm like, girly, we have to read. I can't read these long ass books. But for this, I'll make an exception because of how fantastic it sounds. It sounds terrifying and scary, but those are synonyms. So let me just read you a quick little synopsis. A young father and son set out on a road trip, devastated by the death of the wife and mother they both loved. United in grief, the pair travel to her ancestral home, where they must confront the terrifying legacy she has bequeathed. The woman they mourn came from a clan like no other, a centuries-old secret society called the Order that commits unspeakable acts in search of eternal life. It also says up on the main blurb, a woman's mysterious death puts her husband and son on a collision course with her demonic family. I told you it sounded terrifying, right? I warned you. The other thing too is, and you can go ahead and tell me that my movie taste is horrible. It probably is, and I'd probably agree with you. But one of my favorite horror movie series are the Paranormal Activity movies. Again, I know that it's not the best taste, and that's fine, right? But one of the things that I really love about specifically 1, 2, and 3 is watching how this very evil presence in a family isn't easy to escape, if you catch my drift, because of who they are. I'm trying to be vague in case you haven't seen them, but if you haven't seen them, you're really missing out. I think they're really fun. But anyway, I'm really excited to get to this one, and mark my words, despite the length, I will read it soon. All right, next up, we have a book that I feel like has really split the internet in two. You either love this book or you hate this book, and that is Cleopatra and Frankenstein. Here's the deal. The little blurb on the inside of this book compares this book to Conversations with Friends, which is a book I didn't love. Didn't love it. Just didn't work for me. Writing style-wise, character-wise, didn't love it. And so I'm nervous about this one. But I've both heard it's fantastic from some of my friends who I trust, and then others have said the start was really strong, and then it fell flat towards the middle. So although it is likened to a novel I don't really love, I feel like I'm gonna love this one. I have a feeling like this one's going to work on me. And oh my God, the blurb at the top says an irresistible, unputdownable page turner. I said that at the beginning of this video. Anyway, let me just give you a quick synopsis so that we can be on the same page about it. Do I want to read the full thing? No, right? It's not story time. It just says, an addictive, humorous, and poignant debut novel about the shockwaves caused by one couple's impulsive marriage. Each compulsively readable chapter explores the lives of Cleo, Frank, and an unforgettable cast of their closest friends and family as they grow up and grow older. So I love a book with a big cast of characters. I love a book about marriage. And I love a book with drama, right? And I think I'm going to get all of those things in this book. All right, next up, here's something about me before I show this to you. I'm obsessed with mermaids. Always have been, always will be. I don't care if that makes me a child. I really don't care. I have always loved mermaids. Ever since I saw Little Mermaid for the first time, and then Little Mermaid 2 came out, and I was like, Melody's got it figured out, because I don't understand why Ariel didn't want to be a mermaid. Her daughter clearly knows what's up. Anyway, I've always been obsessed with mermaids. Let's just start there. So you can imagine when I saw this book, American Mermaid, my heart was a flutter. So this one's interesting because it's about an English teacher who writes a book called American Mermaid that is then so successful that it is turned into a film adaptation. And so the author of the book moves to California to try to make this movie happen, but her mermaid was an independent, androgynous, eco-fighting, badass mermaid. And the movie production company wants to turn her into like Ariel from The Little Mermaid, wants to just make her like this girl that like sings and swims around and falls in love. And so as the movie is being adapted, the screenplay starts to change, and the people working on the movie start to be kind of haunted by siren calls. So I won't read you the whole synopsis, but it just says, threats appear in the screenplay. Siren calls lure Penelope's co-writers into danger. Is Penelope losing her mind, or has her mermaid come to life, enacting revenge for Hollywood's violations? I think that sounds fantastic. I mean, I love a book about a writer, and I love a book. It's kind of like Nora Goes Off Script, which is a book that I read last year, where it's like this author writes this book that gets so popular, it gets turned into a movie, and kind of watching that book to movie pipeline was really interesting. But I also think having these like sirens that are haunting the production sounds so cool, and I'm just really excited to get to it. It's also blurbed by Madeline Miller, so I'm in it to win it, all right? Speaking of mermaid narratives, my friends, we have this next book, which is Chlorine. Oh my God. If you didn't know, I used to swim on a swim team for like 4 years. It wasn't that impressive. Like, I never placed first, but I knew how to swim and I loved swimming. And so when I read the synopsis of this book, I was just intrigued. First, it says, Ren Wu is a swimmer. Her daily life starts and ends with the pool. Her teammates are her only friends. Her coach, her guiding light. If she swims well enough, she will be scouted, get a scholarship, go to a good school. Her parents will love her. Her coach will be kind to her. She will have a good life. But these are human concerns. These are the concerns of those confined to land, those with legs. Ren grew up on stories of creatures of the deep, of the oceans and the rivers, ones that called sailors to their doom, ones that dragged them down and drowned them, ones that feasted on their flesh, ones of the creature that she always longed to become, mermaid. What? What? Seriously, what? Sounds phenomenal, doesn't it? I just think that it's doing the mermaid thing, but then it's also doing like real life societal expectations for like being accomplished and going to a good school and making your parents proud. Like, I just think that that sounds so phenomenal, and it touches on so many interesting things, and I can't wait to get to it. Okay, sorry, my camera died, so if you've shifted a little bit, my apologies. But let's continue. The next book is this book called Someday Maybe. And I'm hoping this book brings me to my knees and makes me cry, because I think that it will, just based off the synopsis. But it's basically about this woman who is married and in love, and then on New Year's Eve, her husband passes away, but she's the one that finds him. And so not only is she going through the shock of seeing this, but she's also seeing just the shock. She's going through the shock of losing the love of her life. And the only way she's able to heal from this is through leaning on her family and friends. And so I think this book is going to do something really fantastic with grief and watching mourning and just dealing with huge loss, but then really leaning into how being with your family and friends and loved ones can be what builds you back up again, and just healing and independence and grief. I think it's going to do a lot of things. And again, I hope it makes me cry, because it sounds like the exact book that would make me sob, honestly. All right, another book that I would love to read soon is This Is How You Lose the Time War. I believe Joel from Fictional Fates loves this book. It's also a very short book, which I love. Not only am I going to try to step out of my comfort zone by reading Our Share of Night, which is really long, but I also think part of a reading slump is to try to feel accomplished while reading. And so short books, I feel like, are a good tool. Like if you're feeling uninspired to read, sometimes a short book can make you feel accomplished and make you feel like you're reading, even if it's not a very long book. Anyway, I'm just going on about it. But anyway, I believe this book is about, it kind of combines both sci-fi and romance. So this book says, among the ashes of dying world, an agent of the commandment finds a letter. It reads, burn before reading. Thus begins an unlikely correspondence between two rival agents hell-bent on securing the best possible future for their warring factions. Now, what began as a taunt, a battlefield boast, becomes something more, something epic, something romantic, something that could change the past and the future. So this actually sounds like exactly what I was looking for, which is adventure, but it's also a quick book. So you've got the adventure, but you'll get there pretty soon. And I mean, you know I love romance. So, and it sounds like that's going to happen in this one. Enthralling romantic novel spanning time and space about two time-traveling rivals who fall in love and must change the past to ensure their future. Adventure and romance, my friends. Look it up, and you'll find this book. Okay, and then the final book I'm going to mention in this TBR is a book that I've already started. I'm not very far into it, so I can't really give an opinion. I'm only a couple chapters in, but so far, the character development is very interesting because, you know what? First, let me tell you what the book is. Jesus. It is Nightcrawling. I've seen this cover everywhere. I think it's such a good cover. It's so striking, and it's like begging to be picked up. But it says, Kiara and her brother Marcus are scraping by in an East Oakland apartment complex optimistically called the Regal High. Both have dropped out of high school, their family fractured by death and prison. But while Marcus clings to his dream of rap stardom, Kiara hunts down for work to pay their rent, which has more than doubled, and to keep the 9-year-old boy next door, abandoned by his mother, safe and fed. One night, what begins as a drunken misunderstanding with a stranger turns into the job Kiara never imagined wanting, but now desperately needs: nightcrawling. Her world breaks open even further when her name surfaces in an investigation that exposes her as a key witness in a massive scandal within the Oakland Police Department. That's a synopsis, but again, I think that the sibling dynamics are going to be incredibly fascinating to continue to uncover as I keep reading, just because I think watching sibling bond is a very interesting thing to me because you are so close for so long, and then when you become adults, things change and people move away, or priorities change, or friendships change, or jobs change, and then in that sibling dynamics change. And so to see as Kiara is forced into the caregiving perspective because her brother is pursuing his rap career, I think will be really, really interesting. And the fact that she's also in the caregiving role for her next door neighbor, the 9-year-old boy, is also going to be very interesting to see how it goes from the need to be the caregiver and then what circumstances happen out of that. I mean, it's already, the writing's very sharp, and it's very, it just sucks you in, and you want to know more about her story, but it's unfolding at a pace that I feel like is so calculated by the author. So far I'm really liking it. I'm really excited to finish it, and those are the books that I want to read this spring, my friends. Again, please let me know if you have any adventurous novel recommendations. Again, doesn't really matter the genre, fantasy, sci-fi, romance, anything I'm down for. But yeah, those are the books, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you had fun, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!